true or false. The first question is Section 504 is a special education responsibility.
False.
That is false. It's ultimately a general education responsibility. Second question is Section 504 is the only federal statute that addresses the legal responsibility that public school districts have with respect to students with a disability. That too is false. The Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act also deals with students with disabilities. Third question is all students who are eligible for special education under IDEA are also covered and protected under 504.
True.
That is true. The fourth question is all students who are eligible under 504 are also covered under IDEA.
False.
That is false. The fifth question is a student who has a disability but does not need special education may still be entitled to educational accommodations under 504.
True.
That is true. The next question, 6. Section 504 regulations require a school district to provide a FAPE, free appropriate public education, which may include special education to a student with a disability. That is true.
Tricky.
That one is tricky, but it is true because the definition of FAPE under 504 includes special education. Question 7. Major life activities are limited to things such as hearing, seeing, walking, and learning.
False.
That one is false. It's very broad in terms of what your major life activities are, and it was expanded in 2009. Question 8. A student who has a temporary disability, such as recovering from a car accident, is not covered under Section 504.
False.
That's false. It has to be determined on an individualized basis. They might be covered, they might not be, but it's not automatically a rule out. Question 9. An impairment that substantially limits a major life activity is not considered a disability if the impairment is episodic or in remission.
False.
False. Exactly. They're still going to qualify as having a disability, but their accommodations might be more limited. Question 10. A parent who has a disability, such as being deaf, is entitled to accommodations, such as a sign language interpreter, in order to participate in his or her child's school activities, such as a choir performance, even if the student does not have a disability.
True.
True. So you may be having sign language interpreters at some of your choir concerts.
And we pay for that?
Yeah, you guys pay for that.
Yeah.
Section 11, or question 11, excuse me. A physician's diagnosis is necessary to determine eligibility under 504.
False.
False. It is not necessary. Question 10. A physician's diagnosis is sufficient to determine eligibility under 504.
False.
Also false. It's neither necessary nor sufficient, but it's information you would consider along with everything else in making your determination. Question 13. A student who has an above average grade point average, A's and B's, and high academic skills will automatically not be eligible under 504.
False.
False. Exactly. Question 14. It's a best practice to give students an IEP and a 504 plan if they are evaluated and found to be a student with a disability.
False.
False. They're going to have one or another if they have a disability. If they qualify for an IEP, that's what they would get. You put their accommodations in the IEP. If they don't qualify for an IEP but still have a disability, then you're looking at a 504 plan. Last question, 15. General education teachers have a responsibility to provide accommodations to students with disabilities under IDEA and 504.
True.
True. Absolutely true. A lot of times gen ed teachers will say, we don't have to do it under IEPs or we don't have to do it under 504. They have to provide accommodations if necessary for the students who have disabilities. Go ahead.
Number 6. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just had a quick question. Typically, where do most districts fall short with liability or have an opportunity to be liable? Is that due to not making the determination for a 504 or not having proper accommodations? Just curious, where's the typical average where
it usually comes up is with a gen ed teacher who says, I don't have to provide the accommodation, or a substitute teacher who's not made aware of the accommodations. It's a lot of times in the failure to provide the information where, we've got a 504 coordinator or the team or whatever who's making these decisions, even in the IEP situation, but that's then not being provided to all of the personnel who's going to be providing the supports and services to the kid.
Now, one thing I didn't see here is, which I'm not sure if it's true or false, is that there should be a timeline, and I believe it's 60 days, 90 or something.
Basically 30 days from the
Doing the
evaluation,
evaluation.
30 school days for completing the evaluation. So
30?
30 school days, but again, remember 30 school days is 6
Not counting
weeks.
the weekends, yeah.
Okay.
So that's basically like a month and a half. There's no specific time frame in 504, but we typically will use the time frame from IDEA as a general.
Yeah, I know about SPED, but I'm saying, I thought it was
Correct.
an actual legal time frame that you had.
I
I
think-
thought, and I'm thinking, I thought it was 45
Yeah.
days.
My recollection is under 504, it talks about a reasonable time frame.
Right.
And so the thing about 30 school days, think about what that plays out in terms of calendar days, and it gets you to your 45, because you're basically talking 6 weeks.
You gonna give us a director, coordinator?
Thank you all again very much for your time.
I have when I met with the teams.
You know, we're gonna do a 504, we got X amount of days.
Mhm.
Sure.
If I'm hearing this,
I thought it was
I
something